you go with our mobile app, KDOW.biz. Tune in, iHeart, and the Odyssey app. AM 1220 KDOW.
Sponsored by The Way to My Heart Incorporated.
Welcome to the heart of innovation. 60 minutes that could save life and limb with new breakthrough ideas and innovation changing the healthcare landscape. Brought to you by Patient Advocacy Group, the Global PAD Association at padhelp.org, in partnership with Reflow Medical, the pulse of medical ingenuity. Here are your hosts for the Heart of Innovation, Emmy Award-winning journalist and founder of the Global PAD Association, Kym McNicholas, and interventional cardiologist and founder of Save My Piggies Health and Wellness, Dr. John Phillips.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to a very special show. We are kicking off our PAD Awareness Month for September. It is PAD Awareness Month, Peripheral Artery Disease, meaning that poor circulation in mainly the leg arteries that if you don't get diagnosed early and treated early could lead to amputation. The good news is you get diagnosed early. Walking is the best medicine to grow natural bypasses around any blockages in your legs. And we're very excited that we're kicking off the month with our PAD Impact Awards. The very first award is going to be given to our guest for the day, Kevin Thomas Morgan. It is the Best PAD Walking as Therapy Manual of the Year. He just released his new PAD training manual based on his own experience having PAD, working through the blockages, and becoming an international triathlete at age 82. He wrote the book Peripheral Artery Disease Training Plan for PAD Heroes from Amputees to Athletes. It's available now via Kindle on Amazon. He's looking for feedback in the meantime, and then he will be releasing it on paperback very, very soon. He's also the co-host of a weekly broadcast at youtube.com/The Way to My Heart. It's called Collateral Nation, where he generously donates his time to answer all of your questions about walking as medicine. So really excited to have Kevin Thomas Morgan here today, PAD warrior, athlete, PhD in pathology. Oh my gosh, Dr. Phillips, this is literally going to be one of the most powerful shows of PAD Awareness Month.
Yeah, I think it's a great, well, first and foremost, happy Saturday, Kimberly.
Happy Saturday.
I'm actually on call this weekend, so it's quiet, which is nice, but who knows? But nonetheless, yeah, I mean, great way to kick off PAD awareness. Clearly, the gist of our show, why we're out here, why we're doing this, why there are folks like Kevin in this world, is to raise awareness for peripheral arterial disease, a bit of an orphan disease, but it's worse than most cancers. And lately we have gotten better, but we're not where we need to be. I just, real quick, if I could, because last week we were at AMP, which is the Amputation Symposium, Prevention Symposium, and we were sharing some data. And I believe it was data from 2014 where upwards of 60 to 70% of people who had an amputation had never had vascular arterial assessment. Now in 2024, it's only 30%. So we've made some strides there, but we need to get better. Like, it should be 100% of people. So we're making progress. It's shows like this that continue to do, move the needle. And obviously having Kevin on the show and talking about training for folks that have PAD, from amputee to, someone who just has claudication. And I know we've got a great studio audience as well. So hopefully we'll get some good questions. So yeah, let's kick this thing off. I do have a pretty interesting quote here that hopefully Kevin will find fascinating. If you will indulge me, perhaps we could have a moment of inspiration at some point.
How about right now?
Yeah, off you go.
Dr. John Phillips, spectacular vascular moment of inspiration.
So this is short and sweet, but I have a quote from, look at Douglas. He's like, yay.
We have a great live studio audience. Douglas Angelina's here. Mike is here. We have Josh here. We have such a great live studio audience today.
We certainly do. And thanks everybody for joining us. It's Saturday. It's a beautiful day here in Columbus. So spend an hour with us. You won't be disappointed. Nonetheless, this is a quote from Mark Allen. So he is a 6-time Ironman triathlon world champion, and some people consider him, I don't know the sport very well, but they consider him one of the greatest triathletes of all time. And he has this, like, I thought this was sweet. He says, listen, in quotes, you can quit if you want and no one will care, but you will know the rest of your life.
Yeah, I think he wrote Going Long. He was great, great triathlete.
So, I mean, think about that. You can quit. No one's going to care, but you're going to know.
Yeah, pain
Food for
is
thought.
temporary. That's
Food for
right.
thought.
Pain is temporary, failure is forever.
Yep.
Yeah, there's a lot of those good quotes. It's a great, tremendous sport. I've enjoyed it for 25 years. Just remarkable. My son got
Yeah,
me in.
your son got you into it?
Yeah, Nigel, he was 8-time Kona qualifier.
Oh, wow.
I
So
missed
it's
Kona twice.
all
I
in
would
the
have got,
family.
I would have got a Kona slot at Lake Placid in 2010, and you know what stopped me? At mile 137, I was dropped because I was having trouble running. And 2 weeks later, I'm having aortic surgery. I had a massive aortic aneurysm. And that race in 2010 saved my life because if I hadn't had those symptoms of burning on the bottom of my feet due to I was losing feed pressure to my feet through my aneurysm, moving my abdominal contents, I would have been dead because there were no other symptoms. And it wasn't until about a week later I was wondering what happened in that race because I was 40 minutes off the bike before the marathon ahead of my only competitor, and I knew I could drop him. And so I couldn't run because it's burning in my feet. I knew something was bad going on. And so 2 weeks later, I'm having aortic surgery. So basically, Ironman saved my life. But I did continue with it. But that's another story. Mark
Right,
Allen.
but then fast forward, you still continued, you got into it, but then you ended
But
up,
let's
you thought you were at the, doing something more and then and recovering from that, and then you end up with another hit, PAD.
Well, the trick is to you got to solve the problem. I had a AAA stent graft put in by Cook Medical stent, which was, just tremendous. It's still keeping me alive to this day. It's a huge thing in my distal aorta. It branches into my common iliacs. It's actually failed a couple of times, but not fatally, but close to fatally. Um, an open repair is better, but more dangerous. Anyway, I asked my surgeon if he thought I could do Ironman training, continue with the stent. And he said, Kevin, I'd go easy if I were you. And I'm thinking, I'm not going easy. So I thought about it. I did some research online. It turned out that excessive hip flexion risks dislocating the iliac arms, the common iliac arms. So got a modified bike. I dropped the rowing trainer because that's dangerous. I came across a case where a man actually dislocated his stent that way. And so I cut out that and went on the elliptical instead. I modified my training, bumpy roads, stand on the bike so as not to shake it loose. It did get shaken loose in 2013 by a bike wreck where a guy ran into me in World's Half Ironman Championships in 2013. That's another whole story. But anyway, so in 2011, I was as far as I know, the only person in the world to complete a full Ironman, but it was about 3 hours slower. Because the problem is the stent is non-compliant, so it reduces flow to your lower legs. And so I showed that you actually can do a complete Ironman with a AAA stent graft. I was pleased with that. And so I wrote a short book about it. And that's what took me into what I do now. I mean, in 2010, I had a good research career. When this happened, I decided it was time to move on. I decided to leave my science career in the middle of the lecture. I was the invited keynote speaker for a meeting at NIHS. And in the middle of that lecture, which was called Paradigm Shifts in Biology, it was essentially based on the evolution of biology through the application of computers, which allowed me to enter applied mathematics later in my career. And so in 2011, I managed to do a full Ironman. So I reached out, created a blog. I thought I'd find other people in the same situation. I'm yet to find one. My book helped people when I talked
I
about
think
what
you're
I
a
did.
one and only,
Kevin,
Kevin.
we
I
gotta.
think you're incredible.
You
And
don't
we're
want
going
to
to
be.
continue this. We're going to continue this story coming up right here on the Heart of Innovation on KDOW. Don't go away. You don't want to miss a moment. We have, if you look in the chat, there's little time cues.
We've got hard stops. So sorry to cut you off, but we've got
Yep.
show
Um,
business doesn't rest for anyone.
Just
So we
tell me
want
to
to get
shut up if I talk
from
too much.
So yeah, no, you're great. We want to get from aorta to, so you have all these, you started doing these training programs, and then when you got with, PAD, that made things harder. They told you there's nothing you could do. So now everything you've done to maintain yourself as an Ironman, it's in this new training manual that you're doing. And let's go through the training manual because, when you had your diagnosis of PAD, that was like another oh shit moment. And you talk about that in the first part of your book, where you say, hey, you got to come to terms with this diagnosis. You got to mourn the grief and literally move forward. And so I think that that's a good place to go, and then go into the different techniques in your book, because that's what everyone is also waiting for.
Is it my turn?
No,
Oh,
we're
no,
not live yet. We'll
We're
walk you
waiting,
back.
right? Okay.
Oh yeah, it's just Q&A back and forth.
Oh yeah, I can
So
carry
thank
the story
you.
forward.
And I
Ask
gave,
questions if you want.
we don't have any commercials in this one because we had a week lapse in our sponsorship, Dr. John. So we have more time in this show. So you're going to
Good.
see here, Colin was very generous.
30 seconds.
Any feedback's greatly appreciated, John and everyone else, because I live in a kind of isolated island on my own in terms of my work.
Oh, we're here for you. No more isolation. Okay, Dr. John, you're up.
Yep.
Like Hugh Hewitt, Mike Gallagher, and more. Find truth. Watch 24/7 on snc.tv and on Local Now, Channel 525.
KDOW. AM 1220 KDOW.
Welcome back to the Heart of Innovation. For more on today's topic, go to theheartofinnovation.org. That's theheartofinnovation.org. Once again, here's Emmy Award-winning journalist Kym McNicholas and interventional cardiologist Dr. John Phillips.
Welcome back, everyone, to the show. I'm with Dr. John, and we also have our guest, Kevin Thomas Morgan. He is the author of the best PAD Walking as Therapy Manual of the Year, according to the Global PAD Association for 2025. It's called Peripheral Artery Disease Training Plan for PAD Heroes, from amputees to athletes. And before the break, he was talking about the fact that his whole journey started with an aortic aneurysm and his plight to continue to compete in triathlons, not only at the local level, the national level, but also at the international level. And where we left off was, okay, he started developing his own training plan for that. And then, Kevin, you got hit with PAD, and the doctor said, hey, you have blockages now in your legs. There's nothing we can do. And you thought, oh no, what's next, right?
Yeah, what I thought was not polite in polite company, I don't want to swear, but it was a real bummer. It was in 2014. If people say walking is going to help, well, walking does help, exercise helps, but my symptoms appeared while I was running marathons. So I'm running 26 miles. I ran Boston in 2009. I was a good runner, but my PAD continued to develop, even though I'm sure I built a lot of collaterals in the process. And I think that helped me tremendously in 2017, when the stent extension in my common iliac on the left blocked 100% shut. My common iliac was completely closed, blocked with a clot, which had to be broken up by thromboplastin. But I didn't lose that leg. I just couldn't lift it up. I just noticed I couldn't lift my leg.
Hey, Kevin, can I interject real quick? Sorry, I was on mute. Kimberly, you helped me there. I missed the pickup, but nonetheless, so I guess I'm curious, like, did you actually have peripheral arterial disease from atherosclerosis in the limbs other than what was treated with the aneurysm, or was this all just sequelae from having the aneurysm treated and the device? Because those, they don't last forever. And to your point, you got to clean them out a little bit. So I guess my question is, do you actually truly have atherosclerotic peripheral arterial disease, or is this from the aneurysm?
Well, it's confirmed by ABI. I have a CT scan with contrast, which tracks the state of the stent graft, which I have every 1 to 2 years. That's totally clear. ABI was positive in 2015. I had classic claudication, which is worse. I can tell it's progressing slightly. very slowly because of my training. It started with pain in my right calf and kind of slightly numb feet towards the end of marathons, which I was managing to struggle through. 215 was confirmed by ABI, and Mark Farber is my vascular surgeon. He knows his stuff. The stent's clear. There's no.
But is it all from the stents?
No, I don't think it's that. I think it's atherosclerosis. I have a very, very severe hypertriglyceridemia. I discovered that in my lab when I was doing platelet function studies in Switzerland. We needed some blood to calibrate the agronometer, and they came back and showed me my plasma. It was essentially fasting plasma. It looked like clotted cream. It turned out that my resting triglycerides were over 2,000 milligram per deciliter, and my HDL was less than 20. This is basically a death sentence in my 40s or 50s. So there were no medical treatments that I could get. I was in Switzerland a long time ago. This was back in, I guess,
So you got hit with the double whammy, which ultimately led you to, you're a high functioning athlete and you're dealing with an aneurysm as well as peripheral arterial disease. So if we could go into your training book, because I was looking through it and I thought it was interesting that you had put Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of human motivation, I think it was, and you go through the
hierarchy
five
of needs.
so the five, I guess, needs, and so the book itself is curious and very interesting, but why did you put that in there early on in the book? I'm just interested there.
Because most of the struggles people have are emotional and mental. Because I hear from a lot of people now and talk to a lot of people or watch them talking on the PAD site, or people call me personally via communications. And for a lot of them, they write and say, well, I lost my job. I couldn't drive the truck, or I couldn't stand all day in my job as a nurse. And they lose their job. They lose their job. And then you lose your income and you lose your health insurance, and it chucks you right to the bottom of the pyramid, which is basic physical security, food, a roof over your head. And after that, it comes to concern for loved ones. You can't afford to put your kids to college. That is the real problem of severe PAD. I was fortunate, very fortunate, and the reason I'm where I am is there's really three reasons that I'm still out there with a stent, AAA stent graft from Cook that's lasted now over 15 years. This is fairly unusual. Number one, I have medical education. I'm a veterinarian, and I have 40 years of experimental pathology research in a wide range of disciplines. It goes from basic pathology all the way up to large-scale gene expression. I built fluid dynamics labs, which makes me understand hemodynamics. I built a huge lab in toxicogenomics, which is looking at large numbers of levels of transcripts, and published a lot of papers in that world. But I also dabbled in many disciplines, spent a lot of time in applied physics, mathematics. I'm very familiar with Fourier transform, which is important for understanding flow and pressure waves. So I had that in my head, but also I was born in a war. I had rickets as a kid. I have mild scoliosis, weak bones and joints due to rickets because I was born in 1943. And I knew I had to think my way through, and I'm trained. So each thing that comes along, I try and come up with, first I try and understand it, and then I try to fix it. The hypertriglyceridemia, all I could find was diet. There wasn't anything on exercise back then, so I ate a lot of fish. And that actually brought my triglycerides down to about 500, which is too high. Didn't affect HDL. And then in my 50s, I got into Ironman, and I'll be damned. When I did the first full Ironman, I trained for a year for that first one, which is extremely hard. It's a long way. It's a 2.4 mile swim, 112 mile bike ride, and a full marathon in one day. I was in my 50s. And then not that long after that, I got my lipid profile tested. My triglycerides were down below 150 and my HDL was at 80. That was the only difference, was training. And so exercise is clearly important for your lipid profile. But at the same time, I was obviously growing collaterals, but I had no idea. And so I got my first sign of PAD was in 2014. Oh, and then it screwed with everything. But boy, I was doing more than walking. I was running marathons. I was doing full Ironman races. And then my calves started to lock up in the run. Almost no effect on the bike and swim, almost none. So,
And that's what's interesting is it's so counterintuitive sometimes for when a doctor tells you, hey, you have PAD, the best medicine is walking. But when you're already competing at a national and even international level for triathlons, how do you take that? What do you do? How do you modify your exercise regime so that you can continue to improve your symptoms naturally? Well, that's what we're going to find out with Kevin's new PAD training program. We have some great questions coming in already from our live studio audience. So stay tuned. And we are going to continue to talk to Kevin Thomas Morgan next, right here on the Heart of Innovation on KDOW.
3 years ago,
This is great. Dr. John. Yeah, sorry, you were on mute, and it took me a second, and
I thought
was like,
I don't know if it was a.
It was easier for me to say,
No, get us back.
Just start in, just get us back. But can you jump right to,
Yep.
I mean, we have great, Mike has a question. And so Mike's question really kicks off the start of the book. The start of the book is about coming to terms with your diagnosis and grief. And so that is a great place to start before we kind of get in. And it's interesting to get into that. And then that's where Mike is asking. And so you can call on Mike to ask his question about, did you go into depression, the grief stage at the beginning, like you talk about in your book?
Mike, are you comfortable going on or coming off mute?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, that's fine. Fine by me.
And then Angeline, are you comfortable going off mute? Because that'll be a great way to get in. So you had your angioplasty, you love the book, and how do you start walking again after a procedure like this? Angeline, do you want to say it yourself or do you want us to say it? You do. I can't hear you. You have to unmute.
Okay, sorry. This is the first time on this, so I couldn't find everything. But
No,
yes,
you're doing great. You're doing great.
yeah.
You do want to ask yourself?
yes,
Okay.
I do.
Okay, so we'll get to it in just a moment. We're going to get
All
to
right.
Mike first, and then we'll get to you. And of course, Douglas has about 1,200 questions. So,
Douglas, you get one.
Douglas, did you hear Dr. John?
What I did? I'm sorry.
He has some great questions there, though. He read the book too.
Always thoughtful.
Yeah. So he has a few questions that we'll go
Mike,
into.
Mike, are you joining us from Canada or UK?
Canada today.
All right.
I'm in Canada until January. So
Our international audience.
Yeah.
And Dr. John, as a doctor, would you mind in the beginning doing the little disclaimer? Hey,
Yep.
this isn't a peer-reviewed journal. Always ask your own doctor about what's right for you, but it's a great starting point to just have a productive conversation with your doctor, your physical therapist, your healthcare team to see. But all of his stuff and you can even ask him about it. I mean, it's not clinically proven in a PAD program. Although, as I said, Mike discovered that the NHS has a couple of those those calf pumping
30 seconds.
exercises. But anyway, so we'll start off with grief if we can and get to Mike.
Injured on the job and can't work. They're entitled to receive the money they need until they can get back on their feet. It's free to learn more, so call right now.
877-579-8630. 877-579-8630. That's 877-579-8630.
1220 KDOW.
Welcome back to the Heart of Innovation. For more on today's topic, go to theheartofinnovation.org. That's theheartofinnovation.org. Once again, here's Emmy Award-winning journalist Kym McNicholas and interventional cardiologist Dr. John Phillips.
Welcome back, everybody. It's not often we get a lot of questions from our studio audience, our international audience. So we're going to get to those right off the bat. But just before we start answering questions and hearing from Kevin, I want to remind everybody. So our podcast radio show, it's for general educational purposes only. We're not giving it medical advice. You should always consult a qualified healthcare provider, your physician, if you're going to make some changes in what you do from an exercise standpoint or starting a new treatment. And, we're not here to diagnose or treat. We're here to educate. So with that said, I wanted to get to, so we've got my friend Mike, who's joining us from Canada. And Mike, you have a question for Kevin that I think gets to some of the hierarchy of needs, but also just kind of dealing with a diagnosis of PAD. Mike, do you want to come off mute and share your question with Kevin, please?
Yeah, of course. Nice to see everybody, by the way, and nice to see Kevin again. Kevin, I've read your book, as you know. I've read the new book, and at the beginning of it, you go on about the grief and depression side of being diagnosed with PAD. How did you go through them stages, and how did you manage to get yourself through that?
I did. I mean, when I found my AAA, my aneurysm in 2010, that kind of trained me for dealing with PAD, because then I felt in 2010 with the aortic aneurysm that I went from being, an Ironman triathlete scientist to an aortic cripple. That was exactly what went through my mind. And for 3 or 4 days, I puzzled over what to do. And then, my surgeon said, go easy. That was all I got from the medical profession. I couldn't find anyone else who'd gone through this. So yeah, first it was a bit of a struggle, but fortunately, I have a very strong Asperger's phenotype, which doesn't allow emotion to overwhelm me very often. First thing I do is I analyze. I do what Einstein says, spend a whole load of time analyzing. So I went online, I found examples of people with stents who dislocated their stents. I studied it, and then it became an intriguing problem instead. And so I thought, can I do an Ironman with this thing? And I did. I was slower, which is inevitable because of the non-compliant stent. So then when in 2014, I had this really weird thing in the Lake Placid Ironman, and I'm like, why did I lose that race? I mean, I was 40 minutes ahead of the second guy in my age group, and I glanced down at my belly, and my belly was moving up and down with my 38 beats per minute pulse. And so I self-diagnosed. So then my mind, instead of being scared, my mind jumps into analysis. So I was very fortunate through a friend to find a surgeon. I had an MRI within probably half a day. I mean, and there it was. I looked at it on the screen and my aorta was paper thin. And so I'd gone through that process. So with PAD, when I got the first symptoms, I wasn't sure what was going on until I got the ABI measurement, which was pretty low. I mean, obviously I had very severe blockages, but I had quite a lot of collateral. So by then I was used to fighting back. My mother was a great fighter, and I think she was a great model. And I have some amazing heroes, Jean-Dominique Bauby, who wrote The Butterfly and the Diving Bell, and Viktor Frankl, A Man's Search for Meaning. Those are the people I reach out to in my mind, and I think to myself, hell, they went through hell. I've just got an inconvenient plumbing problem. And so that's how I overcame it. Because
that's a great way, Kevin, that's a great way to put it, because Viktor Frankl did go through hell. He went through concentration camp in Nazi Germany. So I mean, like, what's your advice to somebody like Kevin? Just get your mind out of it and lace up your boots and go after it?
No, you have to.
I mean, you say in your book that you need to go through the grieving process to accept the diagnosis, grieve it and accept it and move forward. Is that right?
You have to go through the normal grieving process, and sometimes you might need to go to a grief counselor. And that would definitely help. And then you can move on, but you have to be ready to move on. And then you need to know what to do. And if you have no medical training, and for PAD, saying you should walk is fine, but you need more than that. You need to walk a lot. You need to push the limit, and you need to know how to do it. I mean, that training plan I just published was because I get frustrated with people failing to understand what I'm saying. And what I'm basically doing is I'm applying medicine an Ironman training to solving my PAD problem. Most people don't have that. They don't have that advantage. So I was very, very lucky. And so if you don't move on beyond the grief, then you're going to be like those guys I see sitting in the bar, getting fatter and fatter and unfitter and unfitter in their 50s and 60s, talking about what they did in high school football. I mean, it's like, you can't live back there. You have to live now. I mean, you have to live now. And if you want help with doing that, I can think of no better book than The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. That has helped me enormously. So, yeah, you got to go through that process. If you don't, you're stuck in the past.
I can say about a book that I've just read that's quite an inspiration to me. So thank you very much, Kevin.
Kym, who's next?
And we have Angeline that is going to unmute. And while Angeline is unmuting, we do have a comment coming in from Nancy on YouTube. She says that this is so helpful for her. She is from Nova Scotia, Canada, listening in, and she has her first vascular surgeon appointment in 3 days, and she is prepared because of all of us. So thank you, Nancy.
You know what? That is inspiring, right? Because you're arming that patient with knowledge regarding a disease that is somewhat nebulous for people.
Yep.
And like we've talked about, it's a bit of an orphan. So Nancy, thanks for listening, and we appreciate the comment. Or watching, I guess, right? Watching.
Yeah.
Did you put a plug in for the YouTube channel, by the way?
Oh, youtube.com/the @ way to my heart. Thank you so much, Dr. John. I'll send you your check later. We have Angeline who's here. We'll add another 0. Angeline is
0.0 is still 0, right?
Yes. Of course, walking is the best medicine, is frontline treatment. Try to delay a procedure as much as possible if you don't have rest pain that wakes you up at night, those darn Charlie horses that wake you out of a sound sleep and wounds that won't heal. But if you do end up with advanced stage PAD, you end up with a procedure as Angeline has. After you have the procedure, you have this newly restored blood flow. Angeline, what's your question for Kevin after having a procedure? How to begin?
Well, first, I want to thank Kevin for writing this book. I've been reading it today. I started. It's only 2 days since my surgery, and I'm ready to start walking again and wondering how to begin. What do I need to do? And I still have to look forward to my left leg being done. But one thing at a time, first things first, and I'm trying to stay in the moments. But yes, when could I start walking again?
What exactly was your surgery?
The 21st. It was Thursday. Exactly.
What is the surgery? What was it for?
He did an angioplasty, and he did a balloon in one clot and a stent in the other on my right leg.
How far down?
It was all upper. It was all upper. It was
all upper.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Kym.
Okay, and this was endovascular, right? EVAR.
Endovascular angiogram.
What you have to do is first you have to be sure. I mean, I got a doctor here, but I'm a veterinarian, by the way. So, if you were a horse, this is what I would say.
Wait, hey, Kevin, real quick, because we only have a minute left. Are we doing angioplasty on horses?
No.
Okay, good.
We first discovered claudication. Right. We first discovered claudication through a horse, actually. So
anyway, Angelina, you let the cut on your the inside of your thigh probably heal, and you need to give the stent time to settle in. That's important. You also need to keep moving, but you don't want to be getting your heart rate way up or pushing too hard. Just give it time to heal. And I wouldn't push it really hard or walk long distances for at least a month. What do you think, John?
Yeah, so I mean, number one, the biggest thing that we tell patients, because again, you had a minimally invasive procedure. Don't lift more than a gallon of milk for the first 5 days to allow the growing to heal. And then I tell folks to get up and walk around. There's certain things that you can get some swelling, you can have some pain there. The stent is hopefully well anchored in, so you're not going to disrupt the stent, but you need to move around, because the worst thing that you can do is just kind of sit there and not kind of get the wind back in your sails. But it takes a little bit of time and listen to your body.
And so coming up next, right here on the Heart of the Innovation, we are going to get to Angeline's next question, but also we are going to give you some great tips from Kevin's new book, Peripheral Artery Disease Training Plan for PAD Heroes, from Amputees to Athletes, which is available on Amazon, on Kindle, at least for the moment, soon on paperback. But he has some great tips of, getting started, getting your toes moving, strengthening your toes, strengthening your feet, and getting those calf pumps, your second heart, working for you before you tie up those laces and hit the streets. So stay with us right here on the Heart of Innovation on KDOW. Don't go away.
Are we on mute yet? I never know.
We usually get a thumbs up, but I
Oh,
think we're okay.
I don't.
Meaning we're off air.
We
I
are?
think we're okay.
Oh my, I couldn't do your
For the
job.
moment.
I'd hate doing your
So
job.
this is
I'd rather do calculus.
This is a
so
tight.
this is-
This is a tight segment. Oh no, 8 minutes and 40 seconds. Okay, good.
Yeah, this is going to be long. It's great, Chris, if you can just really be right on it and let us know that we're off air so we can talk. 'Cause I
The
try to
last thing
wait.
Kym needs is a hot mic.
I know.
good.
Well, I actually do need a hot mic.
Not
got
wrong,
one
not
here
wrong
in
with a hot
Canada.
mic. There's one here.
I was going to say, wait a minute, we already got one.
I got that.
Pun intended. Pun intended. Tip your
But
waiters.
I'd
The
like
veal
to
parmesan
get
is good.
I'd like to get to can we address the statin thing after the show and get to because that's going to cause a whole heated little debate. So I'd rather if we can just
No, I don't
ask the
care,
questions
yeah.
after the show. Can we get to the tangible? Because his stuff is really interesting. I'm curious your thoughts, Dr. John.
Bring us back, Kimberly. Bring us back. This is you. You can, yeah, go ahead.
Because I want to get to, because she says, talks about starting walking, right?
Mhm.
But it's even before. So you start, yes, you need to move, you need to walk. But there are things that Kevin talks about in the
30
book
seconds.
that we're going to be doing in our 30-day to a 5K challenge that are going to help people literally strengthen their feet and their toes to walk
Utility
further.
companies are expected to raise rates this year by more than $38 billion, impacting over 57 million Americans.
I thought that was a
in
caller.
Arizona, the National Park Service says the north rim of the Grand Canyon will be shut for the rest of the season. This
AM 1220 KDOW.
Welcome back to the Heart of Innovation. For more on today's topic, go to theheartofinnovation.org. That's theheartofinnovation.org. Once again, here's Emmy Award-winning journalist Kym McNicholas and interventional cardiologist Dr. John Phillips.
Welcome back, everybody. Thanks for joining us. So, Kym, during the break, you had mentioned, and I want to make sure I get this right, but we're challenging folks to a 5K, so what exactly was the tagline there?
So 30-day to a 5K, and it's tips and tricks to get you to walk further and faster. And hopefully by September 30th of PAD Awareness Month, you will be able to walk further and faster, getting through the claudication of PAD, those leg cramps, and be able to persevere, to be able to live your life without any sort of procedure, or if you've had a procedure, to be able to recover and grow your natural bypasses to stop the revolving door of procedures. But we really want to get you on your way. And Kevin's generously donating his time every single week on Wednesdays to do a live seminar on our YouTube channel. Again, youtube.com/the @ the way to my
Kevin,
heart.
can you give us the cliff notes on this?
Well, the thing I was thinking about Angelina's question, things she can do before she really starts working from the book is, the first three she can do or is done. First, fix your footwear. Don't wear tight shoes and tube socks. You've got to try and encourage flow of blood through your feet, and all my work is all about that. In fact, that's probably been the thing that's helped me more than anything, was changing my feet into just feet and turning them into pumps. People have a tendency to think the heart is pumping blood through inert pipes. That's not true. The body is made of pumps. It consists of millions and probably trillions of actual pumps. Blood vessels with arterial walls that are elastic, they act as pumps as they send that systolic wave down towards your feet. And so I worked out a way, it's an experiment with an N of 1, that's me, and it needs to be studied properly, where I worked out a way to turn my feet into pumps And basically what you do is you contract the muscles in your feet. Well, first you could learn to flex your toes, which is largely in your calves, and then you contract those muscles on the bottom of your feet. There's 10 or more of those muscles. And so when you contract a muscle, it pumps the blood out of the muscle. And then the next thing you want to do is relax those muscles and spread your feet so blood can flow back in. And there's two ways it flows in. One is from pressure from upstream, and the other is from negative pressure. As the foot expands, it probably creates negative pressure that will then draw blood into the arterial system of the feet. And the real key of spreading your feet is separating those bones, the long bones of your feet. And once I worked that out, I realized I had to contract the muscles in my feet, and then when they leave the ground, I have to spread my feet. That is the tricky part. It's not just flapping your feet up and down. And that's shown in all my, I have like 30 odd videos attached to that book with multiple explanations of that. So it's contract and spread, contract and spread. But to do it while you're walking or running, which I do, has to be done. It has to be done smoothly and gently. Kym talks about clawing, but a claw is kind of an aggressive term. It has to be done as a smooth thing. And once you get it, you turn your feet into pumps. I found a dramatic improvement in my walking. I mean, I could walk forever with no claudication. I did a 10-mile test of that, and I noticed claudication occurred around about 9.5 miles. And then I realized it was because my feet were too tired to pump. So the trick, the main thing about this work for me is people understanding the pumps. But in addition to that, apart from giving up smoking, eating the right food, being sensible, all those things, you have to train in two ways, intensely and for endurance. And as you're walking, you need to learn how to walk with minimal impact. You can go a long way on a treadmill because the impact is dramatically reduced by the padding of the treadmill. You get out on the road and you're wondering, why can't I go as far as I did on the treadmill? That's because of lower impact. So you need to learn how to walk with low impact. And that comes down to strong shoulder hip counter rotation. And I don't think we have time to talk about all those biomechanics. Once you start adding that to a healthy way of living and regular training, in addition to turning your feet into remote blood pumping stations, you're going to do a lot better, and so am I. I can kind of run now, and I've got to work out the balance for optimizing my hemodynamics. So,
and he explains all of this in his book, but he also explains he has videos literally that walk you through this at youtube.com/the@fit old dog. And he also has inspirationalselfhelpbooks.com with all of the details. But Douglas has a question specifically about the toes, because you talk a lot in our network at padsupportgroup.org about yoga toes. Douglas, go ahead and ask your question. Oh, so you want me to ask it. So he just wants me to, he's in our live studio audience, wants you to talk about the yoga toes. So starting with yoga toes, moving into the PAD 100, and then applying those techniques when you're walking. Can you try to, in short, walk us through that method? Because that's what we're going to use in the 30-day to a 5K in order to get people walking further and faster.
Yeah, if you scrunch up your feet, you're bound to inhibit flow of blood and tissue fluids for sure. But the yoga toe idea, I didn't come up with that. It was my body movement trainer, Rebecca Amos Lawson. And we put out one of the first videos that I put out was I created a video with her on how to use yoga toes. And that's one of the 33 videos linked to my training plan. It's had over 25,000 hits. It has, I don't know how many thumbs ups. She is a great teacher. She taught me body movement for several years, including continuum. She tried to get me to enjoy dancing, and I'd rather do calculus, to be honest. I could get no pleasure from that, but that's another story. That's how I got to know her, actually, because my partner was...
Did you ever try breakdancing?
I tried every kind of dancing. I get no pleasure from it. It's just a mechanical thing to me.
No emotion.
I don't get any. I remember watching Boys in the Hood, and the father was having a lot of trouble, and he was really stressed because of his son. So he went off to his room, he locked the door, and he put on a record, this big black guy, and he danced, and you could watch the stress fall away. And I tried that. Nothing. I mean, I've done a lot of therapy and a lot of working on myself, but I have a very, very high Asperger's score. And by the way, autism and Asperger's should never be combined in the DSM. That is a really, really bad idea. That's a totally different topic. So this is important.
So we have about 90 seconds. I want to just quickly run through yoga toes, pad 100, and applying those.
Okay, yoga toes help you spread your feet and thus the long bones in your feet, which improves flow. Flexing your toes pumps your calves, which improves venous return to your heart because it compresses the veins that have valves so you get no backflow. The PAD 100 is where you're doing contract your whole foot and then spread your toes in repeatedly, and then you're turning your feet into remote blood pumping stations. That's the logic of this whole thing.
Can you show us with your hand?
Oh yeah, there I am. So you grab the ground gently, right? And then as you come up, so as you grab the ground, your foot will tend to come together, right? And then as you lift your hand up, you spread your toes as far as you can. And you see how that's spreading the metacarpals in my hand? He's spreading those long bones in my hand. He's pulling them apart. And that is what it's about. So it's basically you kind of talk to the ground. You could talk about grabbing the ground, but you're really talking to the ground. Remember, every cell in your body is alive. Every piece of tissue you're seeing on the screen is alive, and it has its own opinion about things, even if you might not agree. And so you hold the ground with your feet, which causes them to kind of close and contract those muscles in your feet, pumping the blood out. And then as you lift your foot up and spread your toes, it spreads your feet, allowing fresh blood to come in. That's the way it works. And there's a video on that.
And that's the pad 100?
Pad 100 is you do that like that with both feet, as you will when you walk. Yep. 1, 2, 3, 4 with your feet.
While you're sitting.
Showing that, and I do the PAD 100 so you can do it with me. You can, if you lie on your back and do it, you're going to engage your core, even your hips and your neck. If you do it sitting in bed with your legs out in front, that locks your pelvis, and that will cause you to use more your legs and much less of the rest of your body. And so I tend to do it both ways. A friend of mine with Parkinson's says it's helped her a great deal, and now she does it when she's sitting, and she also does it sometimes. She does it in bed before she gets out of bed. He said it makes her feel safer, and she's got a firmer foundation. She literally learned it from my videos, and she's a friend of mine locally. I told her about it. She watched the videos, and she said, with her Parkinson, and she's on levodopa carbidopa, which is helping a lot. She said it really made a huge difference to her with Parkinson's. So it loosened her ankles, which she said Parkinson's made it very stiff. Is that enough for me?
Yes. And we'll have more with Kevin coming up in just a moment right here with final thoughts on the Heart of Innovation on KDOW. Don't go away.
I had a beautiful, I went on mute because this stupid microphone, but I had a beautiful segue, Kim. You would have loved it. A transition, if you will.
Well, I was waiting.
I know, but the thing hit it because I was going to say, you know, speaking of talking
do it right
to your
now. Do it right now, and I'll edit it into the final version.
Would you really? Oh, yeah.
Yes, I would.
No, because I said, you know, speaking of talking to your feet, we need to talk to our sponsors. So, well, at least KDOW needs to talk to their sponsors. So we'll be right back.
30 seconds.
Yeah, that was weak. So we only have, what, 4 minutes here? Not even, probably.
We have literally 4 minutes. PAD, what is our group? It's padwalkinggroup.org is the website to sign up. I think that's
2 minutes and 30 seconds. 2 minutes and 30 seconds. So this is not much here.
Hey, Kevin, watch the clock. We're literally quick.
We're going to have to reel you in.
I'll answer questions briefly.
KDOW 1220 KDOW.
And Douglas is doing it.
Welcome back to the Heart of Innovation. For more on today's topic, go to theheartofinnovation.org. That's theheartofinnovation.org. Once again, here's Emmy Award-winning journalist Kym McNicholas and interventional cardiologist Dr. John Phillips.
Well, kids, we are rounding third. Actually, we're about 3 feet from home from this video or this podcast. We've only got 2 minutes and 30 seconds left. So, Kevin, any final thoughts regarding your training manual? You know, what? Just give me 2 points that you want to share with our audience.
Listen to your body and understand what you're doing. That is everything. And that you can get from my book, that you can get from a number of different people, body movement trainers and etc. So get to know your body. Best place to start with that, I would say, is take a yoga class.
Oh, that's interesting. And Douglas was also asking us in our live studio audience, he said that throughout the book, it's not really a book that you need to go from start to finish. You can actually, as different levels of PAD that are addressed there. Can you quickly address your approach to the book and for people who are coming to you, buying the book with different presentations of disease?
Okay, well, I divided into beginner, intermediate, and advanced because I didn't want people to be overwhelmed. If you get through the beginner session, you'll be very well aware of what your feet are doing, and it will make quite a difference. If advanced is really incorporating the foot pumping method into walking and maybe even running, which I do. And so you have to take your time and what suits you. Of course, if you can afford some body movement training, and it can be expensive, and do so. Whatever you must not do is give up. Don't give up. You're alive. You have a body that responds to load, and you'd be surprised, amazingly surprised, how much you can do if you push just gently. And you just gotta just keep pushing, but not to the point of a problem. You have to know the difference between good pain and bad pain. Bad pain is injury provoking. Good pain is the pain of training. So you got to maintain your willpower to move forward.
And I have to say, Mike really quickly started doing the PAD 100 and he has PAD. And Mike, what did you do this week for the very first time thanks to the PAD 100?
Line dancing.
Line dancing!
I went line dancing this week. It was absolutely great.
So next week, you're going to break dance?
Hopefully, yeah.
Right.
It's more of an intense one this Tuesday, so yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Awesome. Congrats, man.
So the book is Peripheral Artery Disease, Training Plan for PAD Heroes from Amputees to Athletes. Kevin Thomas Morgan is the author. The Best PAD Walking is Therapy Manual of the Year.
With Emmy Award-winning journalist Kym McNicholas.
And I'm just going to say, Best PAD Walking is Therapy Manual of the Year presented to Kevin Thomas Morgan, of course, for the Peripheral Artery Disease Training Plan for PAD Heroes from Amputees to Athletes. If you want to sign up for our 30-day 2A 5K starting September 1st and getting to our first seminar on Wednesday, I think that is September 3rd or 4th. I think it's one of those two, but it's the Collateral Nation on youtube.com/the @ the way to my heart. Go to padwalkinggroup.org to sign up for the 30-day to a 5K. padwalkinggroup.org. And you can sign up for the 30-day to a 5K and get Kevin to help coach you to doing a 5K by the end of PAD Awareness Month.
Yeah,
unless you're like me and I've signed up for a 13K at the end of September, which I'm really worried about.
You're gonna
go big
do
or
it,
go
I
home,
promise.
man. Go big or go home.
Yeah, we're gonna get you there.
Yeah.
Dr. John, do you have a couple minutes if we did a quick after show?
Yep. I've got
Okay.
I've got 15, and then I actually have to go to a game day.
So Dr. John, why don't you do the intro to the after show? So, hey, this is the Heart of Innovation after show, Best Walking as Therapy Manual of the Year. We're talking with the author, Kevin. And then we can go into any questions everybody has. So we'll open it up because I know Douglas is dying. I think my dad had a question as well with getting his walking going. So go ahead.
All right. Everybody, welcome to the after show. We had a fantastic podcast and radio show, and we're just we're bringing the party, so it's like the after party. So we're here with Kevin Thomas Morgan, author of. Well, actually, he's a awardee. He got the award for the best the best PAD training manual of 2025. Yep. So congratulations to Kevin, and let's just continue the party. I wanted to actually there were some questions in the audience. And might as well pull the pin on the grenade. Someone had asked about statin use, and I have a pretty strong stance on the use of statins. There's a lot of positive evidence to use statins, particularly in secondary prevention for cardiovascular disease as well as peripheral arterial disease. There's a lot of a lot of noise out there about them. And again, my opinion is talk to your healthcare provider. There's risk calculators that we can use. Statins do not make you diabetic. They may actually cause, you need lipids in your brain. So really high dose statins, there's some evidence to suggest folks might have word finding issues. I don't believe there's really sound evidence for some of the other things like Alzheimer's, but nonetheless, that you can get myalgias from them. You can work around them. There's other treatments for it, but we do know that the LDL, which is kind of the bad cholesterol, and there's some other markers that we use, which really is what your body creates from a cholesterol standpoint. Dietary cholesterol intake is really less involved, honestly, with your total cholesterol. But that LDL and some of those other transporters are nasty for the arteries, particularly if you have low HDL, which is kind of the good stuff. That we don't have a medication for other than exercise. So low HDL, high LDL is a bad combo. But again, talk to your medical professional for any further advice. That's my stake.
When it comes to HDL, my Ironman training took my HDL from less than 20 to up to 80.
Yep. That's exercise does it. Exercise does it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so many people though do not end up they do want to just take a pill. They want the simple fix. But our bodies are designed to work through a lot of these things, just like our body are like little miracles. We can actually grow new blood vessels. We can grow these collateral vessels that lay dormant almost in our bodies until you really need them. And when your arteries start blocking up, we even hear this, right, Dr. John, for the heart and the coronary arteries, where they call the collateral vessels your little lifesavers. But you can literally grow these collateral vessels. And even if, and this is what I love about Kevin's book, is that he talks about ways in which, even if you're not walking, yes, walking is the best medicine, but not everyone who has PAD can get out and walk. They have wounds that won't heal. They might be in advanced stages. They might have knee issues like osteoarthritis, and they're not a candidate for knee replacement, although there are minimally invasive embolization procedures for that as well to be discussed with the doctor. But he has these exercises that have been clinically proven to improve circulation. Now, they've never been put into one clinical trial to actually say this is level 1 evidence that shows that doing the toe yoga, doing the foot flexion, etc., actually, or up on your tippy toes, down on your feet, if any of that actually makes a difference for PAD. Like, no, they have not done that. But we even have a Dr. Nick Patel, Dr. John, that's down in Southern California. We have had him on. We actually had him on a year ago, and he's an interventional radiologist. And he says for his patients that have wounds that are not healing, he sees tremendous difference in exactly what Kevin is talking about with the Pad 100. A little bit of a modification. He calls it kind of, flex and point, or pushing the accelerator button, but he has them spread their toes and push the accelerator button forward and come back. And he said it makes a really huge difference in just moving the calf and keeping the circulation flowing.
Right. You're not going to do a randomized controlled trial of whether or not parachutes work from jumping out of a plane, right? So we know
some people I'd like to put in that trial.
we
the control group.
The control. You want the controls. I will say, so again, it's like Captain Obvious. Any movement activity is good. I'll say that. And number 2, one of the highest predictors of mortality, is decreased ambulatory states. Okay, so you've got someone who's on a couch, not moving around. They're not going to do well. And so any movement activity, using some of Kevin's techniques, anybody's techniques, is good for you. And that is the take-home message that I tell all my patients.
Yeah. But I will say, because there are other organizations that are all about just move. Well, when it comes to PAD and you have PAD, just moving is not enough. That is not going to improve your claudication symptoms. In order
you need a structured exercise program if you have claudication, meaning you're claudicant so you can walk. It just depends on how bad your when do you start getting discomfort. The nice thing about it is there's something we have called set pad. So it's like, structured exercise for folks with peripheral arterial disease, very similar to cardiac rehab. But the bottom line is you have to get out there and you have to want to be motivated, right? I mean, it's like the quote we used. Yeah, if you quit, nobody will know, but you'll remember it. And so just get after it. You know, every day's a new day. We talk about this all the time. Get moving. In fact, when we're done here, you know, I've got to do something for the old clinic, and then I'm going to get on the treadmill because Kevin's got me inspired.
And we want to get to Douglas. Douglas has been so patient the whole time. We got in a couple of his questions during our show. But Douglas, do you want to unmute? We always love seeing you. I know during the show on the radio, you were turning the video on your feet, trying to get some coaching from Kevin on making sure you're doing the PAD 100 correct. Do you want to unmute and talk to Kevin about the PAD 100 and ensure that you're doing it in the correct fashion?
Well, the first thought I have is that there are no studies. There are no studies out there for that. But ask me and Mike and those of us that are starting to follow Kevin, how big a difference those techniques actually are making in the way we feel. Right, Mike? I mean, just starting the yoga toes has made a difference in how I feel, and I have become aware of how I walk in the proper in trying to land my feet properly, not heel strike, and pushing my shoulder and my hip. And I haven't learning to do all that. Walking different is very strange today. It really is, because I never thought about how I walked before, but I do now. So it may not be clinically proven, but ask those that are using it, it does make a difference. And I have to say this also is I can walk a lot further now than I have in the last 5 years. And being able to do that actually affects my mental health status because I feel better, because I'm not just walking to the end of the driveway. I'm walking to the end of the street now. I'm making that progress.
Hey, Douglas.
Yeah.
I'm curious, like, and for anybody that's listening, you guys use wearables that count your steps? Because I think that's a positive reinforcer as well. Maybe steps and distance. And because I usually tell my patients, like, hey, you know, set a goal for.
I have the greatest technique is our walking app, which Kym can, which
jeez, I wonder if that was. Am I a plant there? Did I see?
Yeah, I mean, it worked out perfect. We have an app that she created for us that actually is a very helpful, because it helps me with recognizing when my claudication, and it is a lot of hope and courage to know that I'm making a difference by listening and learning from someone else who has gone before me.
And literally the biggest mistake I think doctors are making overall is telling patients to count their steps, because it's not a matter of how many steps per day you're doing. We have patients, and I get a lot of them that say, I don't understand why I have PAD. I don't understand why my doctor says I need to walk, because I walk 7,000 to 15,000 steps a day. We've even had some that have said they have walked 20 to 25,000 steps a day because their job, makes them just walk all day, but they still have PAD. They still are in pain. And it's not until they actually start focusing on not the steps throughout the day. Yes, you need to move, and yes, that's important. Great guideline. But in order to improve PAD symptoms, the claudication, you need to set aside those 30 minutes to 60 minutes, and you need to focus on pushing through that claudication. So what our app does through My Steps, which is a structured program, it's not supervised exercise therapy. Supervised exercise therapy is still level 1 evidence. That's still the gold standard. The problem is that Medicare numbers show that only 5% of all enrollees actually finish the 36 sessions. So patients report that it's not flexible enough. It costs too much money over time. they're not going to do it. They don't have transportation. And even when you have a cardio rehab program, it's great, it's gold standard, but more than 50% of people in those programs never finish. So we designed a structured walking program that doesn't cost patients anything. It's easy to download, and it measures the claudication time, and they can share the results with their doctor, and they can do it in their own time. And then on top of that, every Wednesday, they have Kevin and myself, and sometimes we have one of our doctors of therapy, physical therapy out of Scotland, who's one of our advisors, who shows up to answer questions that each person may have about their exercise program. And then we have our PAD walking support group as well, where they can share their milestones and get support, from others who are doing the same thing, and get comfort and motivation and that kind of thing. So it's just, we try to do things differently. I was going to try and pull it up for you so you can actually see, but I can send you a website. I think it's padwalkingprogram.com or .org, Dr. John. And you can see it's been endorsed by the OEIS, which is a society that supports a certain subset of doctors that own office-based facilities. So it's pretty cool. And that's what we're going to use for our 30-day to a 5K as well, in partnership with Kevin. We're going to do a little research study as well as part of it. So maybe we can, hey, Kevin, maybe we can lure Dr. John into participating and looking at the analytics and helping us to write up everything.
Happy to help. You know that.
I want to make a comment about assessing progress. I think twice in my plan I mentioned to assess progress in different ways. You can assess progress, as John said, on distance and pace, but also I think for PAD, the use of an O2 SATS meter has turned out to be very useful. It works really well on your toes. The new ones, I think you can even get on your big toe. And so what you really want to do, especially the little toe and the one next to it, based on what I've seen, if you can follow your O2 SATs on that, if it's below 96%, you want to be concerned. Once it gets down to the below 90, you may have a problem, and you maybe want to let somebody know. And so that is a great and very inexpensive way to follow your progress. And it really works. I've had people, one guy wrote to me and he said he tried it, and on his good foot, it was over 95. And on his bad foot, it was 89. And he was off to see his vascular specialist as a result of that. So that's another way to assess progress. Function is another, pain is another, but assessing it and keeping a diary, I think, is helpful, because when you think you're getting nowhere, you look back on your history and you realize you've actually come a long way, but it's still a struggle. So yeah, keeping a track of progress is really important.
Yeah, just remember, when you do have the O2 SATs, it's not going to be the same, right, as your fingers. So you have to establish a baseline, is what one of the other doctors told us, is just know what is normal for you and where you're at, and then go from there.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good, some objective data to kind of help add to all the other data that's used.
Yeah. And then Mike had one more question.
Yeah, I was just thinking, like, I walk every single day. I do the treadmill for over an hour every single day, and I go on the highest incline. I'm now at 3.4 miles an hour on my walk, and throwing in a minute run every 20 minutes. I'm not actually experiencing any claudication pain anymore when I'm doing the treadmill, even on the inclines. And I even climbed a mountain a couple of weeks ago, and it was fine. What can I do now without throwing in a constant run or a constant jog? How can I bring claudication pain in to know that I'm building collateral still?
I'll field that, and then we'll let Kevin do it. But there's some instances, because Mike, we know your blockage, if I remember correctly, is I don't recall it being 100% blocked. I thought that was
75%.
Yeah. So honestly, you may, through one of the larger vessels, that's not the main one there, you can sometimes build that up to be as big as the main one, and then when that collateral kind of hooks around there, I mean, I don't know that you need to get, I think you just need to take it to where you want to go. Like, I mean, if you want to start running, run and see what happens.
Okay.
You may have built that bad boy up to such that you don't get claudication anymore, which is great, right? I mean, again, there's having PAD. People that have peripheral arterial disease do not die from a blocked leg artery. Okay, you die from a heart attack and stroke because there's that overlap. 40% of people have coronary artery disease that have PAD. So you've got to be aggressive with your diabetes, okay, if you have it, or blood glucose monitoring. You have to be able to watch your blood pressure, watch your cholesterol, all that stuff. And that's what people die from, and that's what we kind of miss sometimes. Yeah, we talk about the claudication of the PAD, but it's not the PAD that gets you. It's the heart attack and stroke.
Okay. Thank you.
And Kevin?
Yeah, if you want to push the envelope a bit, like we do in Ironman and other endurance races, you create a pattern of endurance and intensity training. So your endurance training will get you there to a certain pace in a certain amount of time, be it a 20-mile run or 100-mile bike ride or whatever. And then you get your pace to increase by doing intermittent intensity workouts. And that will cause, getting to the point for PAD, it's where you're pushing it hard enough that you get really bad claudication. You have to stop and let the blood flow painfully back into the muscles that are claudicating. But as you do that pushing forward, it will then slowly increase your endurance for distance. So you have to have a healthy combination of endurance and intensity training. So if you want to push it forward, you need to decide what your goal is. I mean, what is your goal? I mean, do you want to do line dancing, for 100 hours nonstop record? What is it you're trying to do? And then based on that goal, you would set up your training plan, ideally with a coach who knows what they're doing. And for PAD, there aren't many of those, but it's the same as Ironman training. It's endurance training. So get the balance of endurance and intensity. Intensity will pick up your pace very slowly.
I was just going to show you, this is our My Steps walking program through our organization. And then they can just QR code. This goes in all clinics for doctors. You can just get this in the clinic. The patient just does a QR code and they can get right into the program. But it's just so basic. They just start walking. When they feel pain, they click the pain button and they keep on walking. And then when they hit a level 7 or 8 and they hit rest, they toggle to the pain level, should be a 7 or 8. And then they can continue walking once their vessels reperfuse, right? They get a little more blood flow back into their feet and they can stop the workout when they want. They have their own dashboard, get to see their progress. They can access all of our community support tools. And the best thing is that they can actually see their progress and they can share their progress with their doctor over time. You can see the claudication time, how much they're pushing through the pain, whether that's improving, the time that they start walking to the point they need to rest, that they can track over time, as well as their total steps during their workout. And then it's also in graphs as well. So that's really what we're going to be using. We have nearly 600 patients already signed up with multiple doctors already on board. And we're going to be announcing who has the most popular walking program in the nation during our PAD Awareness Month Global PAD Impact Awards. So the patients and the doctors are really enjoying the flexibility of this program and the impact that it's having.
Yeah.
And we're going to do some measuring of it in partnership with Kevin and his training program next month.
Well done.
Data. We need
Congratulations.
data. We absolutely need data.
All right, guys, I got to run.
Yep. It's
Thanks.
good seeing
Great
everybody.
show, Kevin. Good seeing you again. Mike, everybody, Douglas, the crew. Peace out, people.
Yeah,
I'm going to go
make
do
sure
some break
you sign
dancing.
up. Yes.
Have a good afternoon, John.
Thanks,
And
guys.
make sure everyone sign up for the 30-day to a 5K. Go to padwalkinggroup.org and you will get to sign up. I think it's .org. If it's not .org, it's .com. So make sure you do sign up.